All right, are you ready to up your game?
Always ready.
Well, today we're diving deep, really deep into Your Next 5 Moves by Patrick Bet-David.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Now, I know, you're thinking another business book.
Well, yeah, kinda.
But trust me on this. This one, it's different.
Oh, really? How so?
It's like, imagine this. You have a grandmaster, right?
Okay, I'm imagining.
Whispering chess strategies in your ear,
Okay.
but not just for, for business,
Uh-huh.
but for life, too.
Oh, wow. Like a life coach grandmaster.
Exactly.
Really?
Sign me up.
So who wouldn't want a little more strategy on their side, right?
I mean, no one. It's like having a secret weapon.
Totally.
So what's the first move, this grandmaster, Bet-David, what does he tell us to do?
Well, that's the thing. The first move, it might surprise you.
Wait on me. He says, before anything else, you got to understand yourself.
Oh, interesting. So it's not about, like, diving into marketing strategies or anything like that.
Nope.
Mm.
He says, hold up, let's look inward first.
Now, that is surprising for a business book. Why do you think that is? Why is that so crucial?
Well, think about it. Have you ever set a goal and it just felt kind of off?
Oh, yeah, totally. Like it was someone else's goal, not really mine.
Right. Bet-David says those misaligned goals, they lead to, well, frustration and burnout.
Makes sense. If your heart's not in it, you're not going to give it your all.
Exactly. So move 1, it's all about self-awareness.
Self-awareness, okay. What does that really mean, though?
It means knowing your values, like what's truly important to you,
Oh,
what
yeah.
drives you, what gets you fired up,
Uh-huh.
and just knowing what makes you, well, you.
So before you even think about, like, making that next big move in your career or your business,
Yeah,
you need to know what direction you actually want to go in.
exactly. It's about building a strategy that's, well, authentic to you.
Authentic, I like that. So it's like figuring out your own personal playbook.
Yeah, like if you imagine someone who loves creative freedom,
Okay, I'm picturing like a free spirit artist type.
right, and you're trying to put them in charge of, a really structured corporation.
Oh, I see where you're going with this. Not a good fit.
Total recipe for disaster.
Yeah, oil and water. So how do you actually figure that out? Like, what's my authentic path?
Right. That's the million-dollar question.
Yeah.
Are we talking personality tests, therapy? What?
Well, Bet-David has some, practical exercises in the book. But I think a good starting point is asking yourself some tough questions. Like, what are you naturally good at? What comes easy to you?
Things you don't even have to try hard at.
Right, exactly. And what do you enjoy doing, even if it's not quote-unquote productive?
The things that make you lose track of time.
Yes. And maybe most importantly, what are your non-negotiables? Like, what are those things you absolutely will not compromise on?
The deal breakers. Things you're not willing to budge on.
Exactly. So once you've had a good, hard think about all that,
Yeah,
you're ready for the next step,
which is?
building your vision. And that, my friend, brings us to move 2.
Ugh. Yes, vision. That word, it gets thrown around a lot, right?
All the time.
But Bet-David gives it a whole new level of importance.
He does. And for good reason. It's not just about having some vague idea of, being successful.
Yeah, it's got to be more concrete than that.
Way more. It's about painting a vivid picture of where you want to be.
Okay, like really specific.
Very specific. In 5 years, 10 years, even 20 years down the line.
Wow, thinking long term.
You got it. Bet-David, he compares it to, like a grandmaster visualizing the end game of a chess match.
Oh, I see. So you're working backward from that ideal outcome.
Exactly. Figuring out the moves you need to make to get there.
So it's like strategic daydreaming, but with an actual plan.
I love that strategic daydreaming. That's exactly it.
I'm taking notes here. Strategic daydreaming, check.
And here's a pro tip for you, and this is a good one.
Okay, hit me.
Don't just keep that vision in your head.
Oh, I tend to do that. I get these grand ideas and then poof.
I hear you. But write it down. Like, actually write it down.
Okay, so pen and paper.
Whatever works for you. Describe your ideal life in detail.
Whoa, like every little thing.
Everything. Your career, your relationships, your health, everything.
That's pretty intense.
It might sound a little woo-woo, but trust me, putting it on paper, it makes it real.
I'm willing to try it. Anything to get me closer to that grandmaster level.
That's the spirit. Now things get even more interesting with Move 3.
Ooh, do tell.
Bet-David, he challenges us to, think differently about strategy itself.
How so? Isn't it all about, like, solving problems, overcoming obstacles?
It's more than that. He calls it opportunity creation.
Opportunity creation. Okay, I'm intrigued. Break that down for me.
So you're not just reacting to the circumstances, in your life or career. You're actively shaping the game.
Oh, I like that. Taking control, being proactive.
Exactly. Like in chess, you're not just protecting your pieces, right? You're looking for openings, you're setting traps.
Anticipating your opponent's moves.
Right, to create opportunities to win.
Now, how do we apply that, in real life?
Okay, so think about your own field, whatever it is you do.
Okay.
What are some emerging trends that you could, capitalize on?
Oh, like being ahead of the curve, spotting the next big thing.
Exactly. And what about weaknesses in your market? Can you turn those into strengths?
Oh, that's interesting, like finding the hidden opportunity?
It's all about proactive thinking, not just reacting to, what life throws at you.
That is a powerful shift in perspective. So to recap, we've got self-awareness, we've got a clear vision, and now this proactive mindset.
You got it. But there's more, of course.
I figured there was. What comes next?
Well, even the most brilliant strategists can't do it all alone.
True. It takes a village and all that.
Exactly. And that brings us to move 4, building the right team.
Ah, the power of teamwork.
It's not just about hiring anyone who walks through the door, though. Bet David is very specific about the kind of team you need to build.
So it's not just about finding people who are, smart and capable.
It's more than that. He says it's about assembling a powerhouse of talent that complements your skills and fills in your gaps.
Oh, that makes sense. Like finding people who excel where you struggle.
Exactly. It all comes back to that self-awareness we talked about, knowing your strengths and weaknesses.
So if I'm amazing at the big picture strategy but terrible with details, I need to find someone who's a detail ninja.
You got it. It's all about balance. Think of classic movie duos. You've got the brains and the brawn, the strategist and the charmer.
Like Batman and Robin.
Exactly. Everyone has a role to play. And the key is to find people who excel where you don't.
I'm starting to see the chess analogy come back into play here.
Oh.
Each team member is like a different chess piece, right?
Love it. With its own strengths and weaknesses. And you, as the leader, you need to use them strategically to win the game.
Okay, this is getting exciting.
Yeah.
So how do we find these perfect chess pieces?
Well, that's where the real work begins. You need to be brutally honest with yourself. What tasks drain your energy? What are you naturally drawn to? What skills do you wish you had?
Those are some tough questions.
They are, but once you know the answers, you can start identifying the people who would bring that missing magic to the table.
So we're talking about more than just resumes and job titles.
Way more. It's about personality, work styles, even shared values. It's about finding people who not only have the skills, but also fit the culture you're trying to create.
Wow, this is getting deep.
Mm-hmm.
So we've talked about self-awareness, vision, proactive strategy, and now team building.
That's 4 moves down, 1 to go.
What's the final move?
The final move is all about power plays. But before you start picturing, backstabbing and boardroom drama,
I was kind of getting there, yeah.
I promise it's not about using power in a manipulative way.
Okay, good to know. So what kind of power plays are we talking about?
Bet David gets into some really interesting stuff about negotiation, timing, influence. Basically, how to ethically use power to get things done in the real world.
Because let's face it, even with the best strategy and the best team, you're still going to encounter obstacles, right?
Oh, absolutely. There will be people who don't get your vision or who resist change. So this move is all about navigating those complexities.
So it's about knowing when to be bold, when to hold back, when to push for what you want, and when to compromise.
You got it. It's like reading the room like a pro. And maybe even more importantly,
What's that?
Reading yourself. When have you been too hesitant in the past? When have you been too bold?
Oh, that's a good point. I've definitely been on both ends of that spectrum.
Understanding those patterns can be hugely insightful.
Wow, we've covered a lot of ground here. 5 moves, each one connected to the next. It's like a carefully choreographed dance.
And that's what's remarkable about Bet David's approach. He weaves these concepts together seamlessly. It's not just about business success, it's about personal growth.
So it's becoming a more strategic thinker in all areas of life.
Exactly. And it's about self-discovery, about understanding what truly drives you and using that knowledge to create a life that's aligned with your values.
It's like he's saying that if you can master these 5 moves, you can achieve pretty much anything.
And that's a really empowering thought, isn't it? That we have more control over our game than we might realize. But that control, it starts with understanding the rules.
And that's what these 5 moves are all about, understanding the rules of the game.
And then playing it to win.
Okay, so we're back, and I'm still thinking about this whole knowing your why thing.
It's pretty powerful stuff, right?
It is. And I'm realizing it's not just about some big, lofty purpose, like saving the world or something.
Right, it can be much more grounded than that.
Exactly. It's about finding that deeper motivation, even in the everyday stuff.
That's what Bet David really emphasizes, like aligning your actions with your values. That's key to staying motivated, especially when,
When things get tough.
Exactly. Because let's be real, things are gonna get tough.
Oh yeah, for sure. Whether you're building a business, climbing the corporate ladder,
Right.
or even just pursuing, a passion project.
There will be setbacks, there will be challenges.
There will be moments when you just want to throw in the towel.
Oh yeah, I've been there. But that's when having that strong sense of why you're doing what you're doing, it really kicks in.
It's like that extra fuel that keeps you going.
It's like an inner compass guiding you even when everything around you feels chaotic.
So how do we make sure our goals and our why are in sync?
Bet David has this simple question he suggests asking yourself.
Okay, I like simple. What's the question?
It's, does this action take me closer to or further away from my values?
Closer to or further away. It's like a gut check, right?
Exactly. A quick gut check to see if you're on the right track.
I love that. So simple, but so powerful.
Right. And when you're operating from that place of alignment, your strategy, it becomes much more sustainable. You're not just chasing success for the sake of it,
Yeah, it's got to be something deeper than that.
You're pursuing something that feels truly meaningful to you.
Okay, I'm all about that. But honestly, sometimes it feels like the world is changing so fast. It's hard to even know what direction to go in.
I hear you. Things are moving at warp speed these days. And that's why Bet David stresses the importance of, well, not just having a plan.
But being flexible.
Exactly. Adaptable. He says even the best laid plans, they need to be adjusted along the way.
So how do you stay strategic when everything around you is in flux?
Well, Bet David talks about, constantly learning, expanding your knowledge base.
Okay, so keep learning, keep growing. Makes sense.
He encourages reading widely, seeking out diverse perspectives, just staying curious about the world.
So it's not just about being an expert in your own field. It's about having a broader understanding of what's happening in the world.
Exactly, because those, seemingly unrelated events or trends, they could have a huge impact on your industry, your career, even your personal life.
It's like the butterfly effect, right?
Exactly. A small change in one part of the world can create ripples that are felt everywhere.
It's kind of mind-blowing when you think about it. But how do you actually stay on top of all that information? There's just so much coming at us these days.
You're not wrong. It can be overwhelming. But that's where having, that clear vision comes in handy.
So it helps you filter out the noise.
When you know what you're ultimately trying to achieve, it becomes easier to focus on the information that's actually relevant to your goals.
Like having a mental filter.
Precisely. And Bet David also talks about, developing your critical thinking skills.
Okay, so don't just blindly accept everything you read or hear.
Right. Question assumptions, look for evidence, and be willing to, change your mind if the facts warrant it.
So it's about being discerning, not just getting swept away by the latest trends or hype.
You got it. A true strategic thinker, they're not just reacting to the world, they're actively shaping it.
I love that. It's empowering. But let's be real for a second. Sometimes it feels like we're up against forces that are totally out of our control. You know what I mean?
I do. And that's where understanding power dynamics comes into play.
Power dynamics. That sounds a little, intimidating.
It's a concept that David dives into in your next 5 moves. And it's not about power in the, traditional sense.
So not about being the boss.
Not necessarily. It's more about influence, persuasion, and the ability to, navigate complex social systems.
So less about being in charge and more about understanding how to work effectively within those systems.
Exactly. Even if you don't agree with everything about them. And it's about recognizing that power. It can be fluid and situational.
What do you mean by that?
Well, the person with the most formal authority, they're not always the one with the most influence. Think about it. Have you ever seen someone in a junior position who was able to sway the whole team?
Oh yeah, totally. Sometimes it's the quiet ones you have to watch out for.
Exactly. So how do you develop that kind of influence?
Yeah, how do you become a more powerful player, so to speak?
Bet David talks about, building relationships, mastering the art of negotiation.
Oh, so like being a smooth talker.
It's more than that. It's about understanding, leverage, how to use it effectively.
So it's about being strategic in your interactions, understanding that give and take.
Right. And knowing your walkaway point. meaning understanding when it's better to step back from a situation that's not serving you.
That's a tough one, knowing when to walk away.
It is, but it's crucial. It's about, choosing your battles wisely.
Okay, so you don't have to win every argument to come out on top.
Exactly. Sometimes the most strategic move is to walk away, especially if it helps you, maintain your reputation.
Or avoid getting caught up in unnecessary drama.
Right. So we've talked about power dynamics, but let's get back to this idea of building a team.
Yeah, Bet David seems to think that's pretty important.
He does, and he goes beyond the usual advice of, hire people smarter than you. It's about building a team that complements your strengths and weaknesses.
Right, finding those missing pieces of the puzzle.
Exactly. And you, as the leader, you need to figure out what pieces are missing.
Okay, I'm with you on the puzzle analogy. But finding the right people, it can be tricky.
No doubt. But Bet David has some advice on that. He talks about networking, but not just the, traditional kind.
So not just collecting business cards at events.
Right. It's more about building genuine relationships.
Yeah.
Connecting with people who share your values, your vision.
I like that. So it's about quality over quantity.
And he also encourages thinking outside the box when it comes to talent.
What does he mean by that?
Well, don't just look for people who, fit a certain mold or have specific credentials. Sometimes the most valuable team members are the ones who bring a unique perspective.
The ones who challenge the status quo.
Exactly. And once you've found those amazing people, it's about creating a culture of trust and respect.
Because if people don't feel valued, they're not going to do their best work.
Right. It's like that saying, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together.
So true. And when you have a team that trusts each other, respects each other, you can achieve incredible things.
Absolutely. It becomes this collective force capable of overcoming any obstacle.
Okay, so we're back. And we've talked about a lot. We've covered self-awareness, getting that clear vision, creating those opportunities, and of course, building a great team.
Right. Hitting all those key moves.
But there's one move we haven't really unpacked yet.
Which one is that?
Power plays.
Ah, yes. That one tends to, raise some eyebrows.
I'll be honest, it makes me a little nervous. Sounds a bit risky.
I get it. But when Bet David talks about power plays, he's not, talking about manipulation or being aggressive.
Okay, good. Because that's not really my style.
Mine either. It's more about understanding how influence works.
Influence, okay.
Persuasion. Negotiation. Recognizing that power dynamics, they exist, pretty much in every interaction we have.
Oh, that's interesting. So it's more about being aware of those dynamics.
And knowing how to, let's say, use them ethically to reach your goals.
Ethically, that's key. So it's not about power over others. It's more like power with others.
Exactly. You're using your influence to try and create win-win situations.
I like that. Everyone benefits.
It's about building consensus, moving things forward in a way that helps everyone involved.
So how do we actually put this into practice? Give me some examples of these power plays.
Sure. Think about a time when, you really needed to convince someone to see your point of view.
Oh, like pitching an idea at work.
Perfect example. Or maybe you're trying to get your family to agree on where to go for vacation.
Ugh, family vacations, always a negotiation.
Right, but those are the situations where understanding these power dynamics can be really helpful.
So this isn't just about business then, is it? It's about, becoming a better communicator in all parts of life.
You got it. Bet David talks about building relationships, becoming a master negotiator, learning how to, frame your requests in a way that connects with the other person.
So it's not just about what I want. It's about understanding what the other person needs.
Exactly. Finding that common ground, creating those win-win scenarios.
Okay, I can see how that's powerful. But what about when, you feel like you have zero leverage, like you're dealing with someone who's just unreasonable?
Ah, that's a great question. And Bet David actually talks about this in the book. He says, knowing your walk-away point is essential.
Walk-away point. What's that?
Being willing to walk away from a situation that's just not working for you. Even if it means, you don't get exactly what you wanted.
So sometimes the most strategic move is to just, walk away.
Sometimes, yeah. It's about choosing your battles and not letting your ego get in the way of making a smart decision.
That's a tough one. But it's probably good advice. So it's about playing the long game.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Not getting caught up in winning every little battle, but focusing on the overall war, you could say.
This has been so eye-opening. We've covered so much ground. All these 5 moves. It feels like a whole new way of looking at well, everything.
I think that's what Bet David does so well. He connects these ideas not just for business, but for life in general.
It's about becoming, more intentional, more deliberate.
More strategic in how we approach everything. And it all goes back to that chess analogy, right?
We're all players in the game of life.
And the more we understand those rules of the game, the better we're going to play.
Exactly. So to our listeners out there, I say, embrace that inner strategist.
Take these 5 moves, try them out, see how they work in your own life.
Play the game with more confidence, with more intention.
And remember, the game is never really over, is it?
Always another move to make.
Keep learning, keep experimenting, and most importantly, keep playing.
Well said. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. It's been a pleasure exploring these ideas with you.
Likewise.
And to all our listeners, until next time, keep strategizing, keep learning, and keep making those power moves. See you on the board.